Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whenever you are watching this. Welcome back to Farmstead. So, hello, everybody. My name is Samantha Starkey. I am the owner operator of a 2-acre farmstead located in Southeast Louisiana. And recently, the research I've been doing has brought me to a very disturbing realization. There's an underground where children are brought and they never return. So, welcome back, everybody. Let's do a little housekeeping while we wait for the algorithm to move through so they don't knock me off my live. Good morning, Miss Beth. As you pop on, please do me a few quick favors. Make sure you are still subscribed. YouTube has jokes. Hit the like button, drop the comments, tell me who you are and where you are watching from. For ones of you that have maybe never seen me before, I am a published author now. I co-authored a book with a good friend of mine, and it is titled Growing Under a Poisoned Sky. This book will be available on Amazon, eBooks, Walden Books, Walmart, all of that in about 8 weeks. However, due to my husband's unfortunate health issues and YouTube refusing to pay me now for 4 months, I am auctioning this book. What do you mean, Sam? I mean, I'm giving you guys the option to offer an unsubscribed amount of money and bid for this book signed by me, autographed to you with a little note. And I will let everybody know who wins the book on Friday, the 25th. People who get our newsletter and who are part of our Zoom links, we will be Zooming on the 26th. That is Saturday at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. You will receive either an email from Leslie or from Edeby. So be looking in your spam if you have not received that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, because we don't get paid. We offer a newsletter monthly, and then I Zoom with you guys, and then we put you in groups by state so that you can get to know people and you guys can start working on issues in your own communities, your own backyards. The way to get that will be linked at the top of comments at the end of this live. You just have to make sure that you add your email because everything is done through email. Good morning, everyone. The videos I have today for you are extremely concerning. I need a favor. I need you to make sure that there are no children present while you listen to this. If there are children near you, please simply turn me off and pick me back up later and rewatch it. Maybe not be part of the live, okay? The reason I say that is everybody by now should have heard what happened in Alabama. And it's horrific. They found children in an underground bunker that were being abused by both their parents, but it was linked to a gang that traffics in children. Sex trafficking of children is their priority to making money. So I started backtracking, looking for evidence of this gang because they haven't named the gang. They've not ousted them. What I tripped over, Jesus have mercy, you guys. What I tripped over. So hope you've got a little bit of time because it's going to take me that to lay this out for you guys. But I'm sorry, I didn't finish the thought about this. If you'd like to bid on the book, if you go to our homepage, there's a post section. I posted, let the bidding begin. You can go there and offer your bid, or you can email me your bid. And whoever bids the highest, in other words, they offer the most money because I need it right now with my husband's health and missing work and stuff, we will send you the book autographed. Now, let's get into this, folks. Let's start with what's happening right now in Alabama as that story unfolds, because it's going to link us to what I found out about Midland, Odessa, Texas, okay? So
help us get some of this information out. Maybe it'll lead to more victims coming forward. Unfortunately, I'd first like to thank my team, my chief investigator, Chris Poole, investigator Justin Hobbs. They worked tirelessly on this case. I know we haven't been giving out a lot of information in reference to what's been going on, but it's been very busy and a lot of new things come to light. More arrests last night, unfortunately. The case first started in February of this year. The Department of Human Resources had information that there was possible sexual abuse going on at the residence on Aaron Drive. They contacted the sheriff's office, and Chris and Justin immediately responded there, and they were able to determine that, yes, there was sexual abuse of children occurring there. This was occurring in what had been referred to as a bunker. It's actually a storm shelter. When you pull into the driveway, it just looks like a shed where you park cars, but when you go around back, it's actually an underground storm cellar. It's where all these incidences took place. They were able to interview the first suspect, William Chase McElroy, and as a result of that, they located another suspect, Dalton Terrell. He confessed and gave more information that led to it being opened as a human trafficking investigation. After that, new allegations resulted in the arrest of Timothy St. John, Rebecca Brewer, Sarah Terrell, and Ricky Terrell. So as it stands right now, the total number of victims are 10. Unfortunately, we expect more victims to be found. We're looking right now at
I'm going to tell y'all what my husband said when he heard me recording this as we were coming in from New Orleans yesterday. He said, my concern, Samantha, are the victims they're never going to find. And I said, oh, yeah, like, people that won't admit it or have been moved. Or he goes, no, baby, the ones that didn't survive it. The ones that didn't survive it. Okay, so let me take a deep breath because this gets really deep, really fast. Some things, maybe I should just disclose this now. My first husband was arrested and grand jury indicted on oral sexual battery of a minor, which happened to be my children. So when I talk about things like this, I see it from both ends, right? From the victim side of it and the recovery side of it, the years that it takes to recover when someone breaks trust with a child at this extent. Everybody in this case in Alabama, I think, but like one, and that's the illegal alien who they're giving very little information on, I might add. That person, they're kind of like, they've told who his name is, and they've said that this is linked to gang activity, but that is as far as they're like opening the door to that. Like they don't want people to understand what is happening. But what I have uncovered about this particular area of Alabama is horrible. So let me just keep going.
Have been charged with
Let me just keep going for y'all.
Just for psychological purposes. That is something that I haven't even thought of at that point. I'm glad you brought that up. So we will see what can or should be done about that. If I had my way about it, we'd blow it up, but that's something that I can't really answer.
Can you describe what the bunker was like? I know we've seen pictures of the outside by now, but can you describe what the inside was like and about how large it was?
Well, it was pretty good sized where you could actually live in there comfortably. I mean, there was a toilet in there. There was a mattress they were using as a bed in there, room for some chairs and things like that. It's kind of a concrete block structure, partially underground, to where you walk around back and you can see it, but it's going into kind of like a hillside. And then on the top of it, like I say, it was like a pad for the roof and then a carport put over. So when you pull up and look at it, it just looks like a carport on a concrete slab.
The Hispanic suspect, what's he, or is he legal?
We're working with Homeland Security investigations to determine what kind of protective visa he had or anything like that. So I'm not really sure right now. That's something that they're running down and helping us to determine.
Going back to the bunker bunker, just to clarify, I read reports of it being a basement that was converted into a storm shelter, but you're saying there was a carport above it. Was there any type of residence around that, or was it truly just a bunker in the ground?
Well, it was right there by the residence, so it was adjacent, but you couldn't access it from the residence like directly. You had to go and come in the back of it.
And it was, just for clarification, this was built as a storm shelter and was used for this purpose. This was not built for this purpose.
No, ma'am, and that was one of my first questions. But no, I do believe it was built for a good thing and used for a horrible thing.
Where are the mothers of these children? Just curious.
Okay, so Kelly, I just changed you to moderator. I saw what you were talking about. So you are officially moderator. So we have two moderators on our channel now. Everybody say hello, Kelly Terror and Leslie, who wrote the book with me. They're both moderators, which means they can time you out and they can remove your comments. All right, so I want you to watch this one.
Over an underground bunker where the Bibb County Sheriff's Office says child abuse was taking place for months. This is in Brent along Aaron Drive. An ongoing investigation has led to 3 arrests after serious allegations involving children. Court records reveal only part of the story, and right now there are many questions. ABC 3340's Gracie Johnson breaks down what we know and what authorities aren't saying.
The investigation began in early February. Since then, authorities have made multiple arrests and filed several felony charges, yet key details surrounding the case are still unclear.
Keep the kids in safety.
The Bibb County Sheriff's Office says it opened an investigation on February 4th following a report related to child abuse involving an underground bunker near Brent. That investigation led to arrests of these 3 individuals. All 3 have been indicted on various felony charges, including rape, sodomy, human trafficking, and kidnapping. Court filings allege the incidents occurred between January 2024 and early 2025 and involved at least 5 children, all under the age of 12. The court documents indicate that William McElroy allegedly acknowledged having inappropriate conduct with a child. Dalton Terrell reportedly admitted to unlawful sexual activity during an interview with investigators. And Andres Trejos Velázquez is accused of distributing explicit images and facilitating contact between victims and others.
They need to be put away and stop all that violence going on with these little bit of kids. You'll never know what they might do to little kids these days.
While the charges are detailed in legal documents, many aspects of the case remain unknown. Some of the questions we'd like to ask investigators include, was anyone else involved? And how were the children identified or contacted? We reached out to the Bibb County Sheriff's Office in an effort to get an answer to those questions, yet we were told that Sheriff Jody Wade was out of the county and unavailable for interview. We will continue.
Did y'all hear that?
Over an underground.
How many horrific things have we seen in the past 3 or 4 years where the top dog, the sheriff or the mayor or the governor, was not in place? They weren't there, right? Like, how convenient. You left the chickens and the fox came in the hen house, right? Like, this is their thing. I wasn't there. I can't give any information. I was on vacation with my family. DJ Lewis, I know how to cure it too, boo-boo, but I don't want to go back to prison, so let's not go there, friend.
In an underground storm bunker. Now a 4th arrest has been made, and the charges against the suspect are just as disturbing. The Bibb County District Attorney's Office confirms Timothy St. John was taken into custody today. He's facing 15 charges, including rape, sodomy, human trafficking, kidnapping, bestiality, and cruelty to animals. According to officials, some of the alleged offenses took place inside the same underground bunker on Aaron Road in Brent, Alabama, that has been central to this ongoing case. It's where they say 6 children were victimized in a child sex rape. The youngest, only 3 years old, were victimized repeatedly over more than a year. The underground storm shelter is near the home of William Chase McElroy, one of the men charged with raping and sodomizing the children, as well as kidnapping and human trafficking.
Inside the storm shelter, there were chairs and beds and things of that nature. And the children were drugged by Mr. Trejos and tied to the bed and to the chair and to a pole. And then people would come and pay money to have sex with these children.
Webb McElroy and Andre Trejo Valenzuela have been charged, or both arraignment hearings were set for August 15th, Dalton Terrell's arraignment, you see them all here, set for September 2nd.
I'm not even going to lie to y'all. When I heard this story, God forgive me, I looked at my husband and I said, may prison justice be swift and cruel. I did. Hey, Jimmy, how are you? I did. I'm not going to lie. I did. Yep. You heard me. I said it. Some of you may be like, Sam, that's not, Christian. You shouldn't have said that. Maybe it's not. And I know it's not. All right. I'm not going to kid myself. But I'm human. And as someone who saw this happen to her children and the years of fighting this out in court, and you know what I'm saying? Like, the shame of it is they're now finding that like 6 of the victims are part of this family. The McElroy Terrell, it's all a family. The mother, the grandmother, from what I'm understanding, like how sick. And when you look at the men that they've done their mugshots, they all look mentally retarded. I'm not going to lie to you. And I'm not giving that excuse so they can get off of their crimes. But they've got that vacant where their mouths don't sit correctly. Their eyes aren't placed properly. They've got this like, you know what I'm saying? Like this look about them of utter trash. Like, I live in a mobile home, so do not take me wrong. I'm not saying, people, you can be poor and not be trash. You can be rich and be trashy. And these people look trashy. Like they just got that. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I went on and went digging. And it says at 6:20 or so, Bibb County Sheriff mentions that the parents' family members were perpetrators in this child sexual case. Alabama child sex trafficking ring investigations. All right. It's really horrific, but this is what's been happening in Alabama for like the past 5 to 10 years. It's so bad. The child sex trafficking is so bad that this is what's been happening in the past couple of years. Major nationwide operations stemming from inside of Alabama. Operation Restore Justice, May of 2025, was FBI-led, spanning all 55 field offices in cooperation with the Department of Justice's Child Exploitation and Obscenity Section. It resulted in 205 arrests and 115 children rescued from child sexual exploitation. Operation Soterra Shield, April of 2025, targeted online child sex abuse, involved the FBI, the ICAC Task Force, NCMEC, and over 70 state and local agencies. 244 arrested, seized 1,130 devices, and rescued 109 children. Folks, that's just since April in Alabama. All right. That's like 225 children rescued. So it keeps going. It says that recently the Department of Justice granted $1.5 million to Alabama programs that support human trafficking and child exploitation cases. Now, this is the key. I want you to hear me. Do you remember the other day when I showed you the gentleman he was an independent investigator. He was in the airport and he was recording all of these illegal alien children, these undocumented migrants, underage, unaccompanied, being moved through the airport. And he says, who are you working with? Are you with Southwest Key? Do not molest those children. Remember? If you don't, go back and watch my live from like 2 days ago. It says through HHS coordination, the Department of Justice helped relocate unaccompanied children from at-risk shelters, moving them out of facilities run by Southwest Key due to abuse concerns. So I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I remember that gentleman recording the video in the airport of all these unaccompanied minors being moved through the United States by plane, and him accusing the gentleman that works for Southwest of being a pedo. So I'm like, what's going on with Southwest? Like, what's really going on with Southwest? And then I found this article. The U.S. drops lawsuit against shelter provider alleging sexual abuse of migrant children. March 13th of 2025. The Justice Department drops lawsuit after HHS stops placing children in Southwest Key shelters. Southwest Key previously denied allegations, of course they did, claimed that the shelter was safe. Of course they did. National Center for Youth Law seeks to intervene. March 12th, the Department of Justice dropped a civil rights lawsuit filed last year against the national nonprofit Southwest Key, alleging its employees had sexually abused unaccompanied minors who were housed in its shelters after entering the country illegally. The department decided to drop the lawsuit after the Department of Health and Human Services stopped placing unaccompanied migrant children in the Southwest Key shelters and has begun an initiation review of the grant money that has been given to this organization. The department said it has moved all children in Southwest Key shelters to other shelters. Austin, Texas-based nonprofit Southwest Key contracts with the federal government to care for young migrants arriving in the U.S. without parents or legal guardians, has operated 27 shelters in Texas, Arizona, and California. It is the largest provider of shelters to unaccompanied minor children. The Justice Department filed a lawsuit in July of 2024 in the Western District of Texas, alleging a pattern of severe or pervasive sexual harassment going back to 2015 in the network of Southwest Key shelters. Folks, when I tell you that I am against open borders, that I am against allowing any illegal, undocumented migrant to stay in my country, this is why. Because they are coming across that border, towing children behind them that don't even belong in their family unit. You must understand that Joe Biden took away the rapid DNA test that President Trump had put in place at the border. So in other words, Samantha and Stephen come to the border with 6 kids, and I claim they are mine. I am mother. Well, rather than believing me, because you don't know me and I don't have proper documentation, and I'm already breaking the law, right? Which means I'm probably not trustworthy to begin with. You swab my cheek, and then you swab my children's cheeks. And if any of those children don't match up to me or my husband DNA-wise, you take the child and you begin to question. That's how Trump ran the border. And they found a lot of children that did not belong in groups. Those babies were drugged when they got to the border. They were being carried by men. They stopped so much of this. And what did Joe Biden do? He stopped testing the DNA of the kids to the people with them? Really? And Democrats were okay with that? Like, everybody just acted like allowing the southern border to be open. Baby, you're not even getting close to the southern border unless you go through a gang. We had YouTubers and influencers prove that. They crossed into Mexico and began to walk back, and they had guns put to their head and questioned, like, who are you with? Where's your band? Like, you're not just going to freely walk from Mexico into America unless you go through drug traffickers, human traffickers. It's ridiculous for anyone to believe that an open border is okay. So I wanted to share that with you. But now we have transitioned from Alabama, right? We've transitioned from Alabama and we're scooting towards Texas. But there's a few more things I've got to tell you about Alabama before I get all the way over there in Texas. Let me find it. This was in 2023. 6 men were arrested on child sex charges by Homewood Police in Alabama. It was called Operation Cross County, right? That was in 23. Then in 2024, I found an article that says what human trafficking looks like in Alabama. I'm like, my God, how much of it's going on if you need to like write an article said this is what it looks like. Birmingham, Alabama. In 2021, the National Human Trafficking Hotline reported that it received 285 calls from Alabama. Over 100 calls just from the victims themselves. This was the highest number in over 14 years. Diane Bay called the I-20 corridor a hotbed for human trafficking. It is a hotbed. A map from the Polaris Project shows the locations of human trafficking in the United States in 2020. Highlights areas in and around Alabama as hotspots for human trafficking. In 2023, human trafficking arrests took place in multiple well-known cities and counties across the state of Alabama. So the Leeds Police Department arrested men in 2023, and it just goes on. In June of 2023, a man in DeKalb County was convicted of human trafficking charges, sodomy, and obscene matter involving children. In July of 2023, a man was arrested for alleged child exploitation in Tuscaloosa County. Again, in July, a 71-year-old man was arrested by Pelham police and charged with first-degree attempted human trafficking of a 14-year-old girl. In November of 2023, a court date was set for a Trussville doctor who was arrested and charged with human trafficking in 2022 from the young girls he had called him sugar daddy. In December of 2023, a convicted sex offender from California was arrested and charged with first-degree human trafficking in Tuscaloosa. Additionally, in 2023, multiple sting operations happened in Homewood, Coleman, Houston County, Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, and Northport. Alabama, baby. Even in Chesley. What is human trafficking? Human trafficking is the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for labor or services through the use of force, fraud, or coercion for the purpose of subjecting them to involuntary servitude, debt bondage, or slavery. According to the Federal Human Trafficking Report for Alabama, All of the victims of human trafficking in the state in 2021 were victims of sex trafficking. Of the cases reported, a third of the victims were children and 83% were female. Folks, methods used to move people for this type of trafficking. Flight, including Southwest, Delta, JetBlue, and Alaska Airlines. Buses, such as Greyhound. Also, common methods are ride shares, namely Lyft and Uber. The Blount County Sheriff's Office said multiple people were arrested while the department conducted a sting operation in efforts to apprehend child sex offenders. That was Blount County, Alabama, in August of 2024. Trafficking generates billions of dollars of profit annually, folks. The only thing that is a little bit even close to human trafficking, sex trafficking, is drug trafficking. It's the most profitable form of transnational crime. So when they opened our borders to all of these illegal immigrant gangs, they provided a new drug. And that is exactly what you could see when you look at people who do this type of trafficking, who pay for these types of services. They are addicted to it just like a meth head or a heroin user. But it's evil because they're not just sinning against themselves. They're hurting innocent people. And usually it's children. Generally, many traffickers utilize fraud, coercion, or force to lure their victims and force them into commercial sex exploitation. Let me keep going. The term forced child labor describes forced labor where traffickers compel children to work. Some children can legally engage in some forms of work. However, coercion or forcing children to work is primarily illegal in Alabama. So what you're seeing is not just sex trafficking in Alabama. It's the influx of these children being brought in and being forced to work, just like what we saw in California the other day, forced to work in a marijuana field. And then what did you see? A bunch of hippies and liberals, and I consider myself a mini hippie, like a Christian hippie. It's a new word. I'm a Christian hippie because I understand how hippies look at the earth, and I much have a lot of their same viewpoints of government as well as the soil. But you saw people fighting ICE who was there to take children who are here illegally unaccompanied and trafficked into your country out of a marijuana field they shouldn't have been working in. And people tried to fight them. And I was shocked. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I just want to say this again, guys. We're 33 minutes in. I don't know how much longer I'll have a stable connection, but we're going to move now into what is going on in Texas, the underground tunnels in Texas, and how all of this is connected by the interstate. I told y'all, Florida was busted. The DMV was busted in Florida for giving out thousands upon thousands of illegals CDLs illegally. Now, if you're in this country illegally and the documentation you have is illegal, and the people that gave you the money for it or the people that brought you into the country said, hey, I need you to pick this load up in Texas and take it to Alabama, you would do it. Because if you didn't, what's going to happen to you if you don't? Well, they could get rid of you and nobody would even know because you're here illegally. We don't know who you are, right? You're a nobody. You're an unperson. That's what people who have been trafficked are. They're shadow people. There's no footprint for them. It's literally impossible to track them. So when you see people in America thinking it's okay for shadow people to be brought into our country, you are being deceived. We do not get paid for our work. YouTube said that Samantha's work is harmful. So if you disagree with that, if you think what I do is needed and appreciated, please look at the top of comments at the end of this live and pray about donating to us. And when you do, regardless of how much you donate, you're going to get our monthly newsletter and you'll be invited to the Zoom, which is this Saturday, the 26th of July at 7 p.m. Now, let's move into Texas and let me tell you what I found there. All right. As I was researching, I also found a case, and I'm going to talk about this if I have time at the end, about how state laws in the Fourth Amendment and how it's allowing the federal government onto private property and how it's illegal. And this is why I want to break you guys up by state so you can study your state constitution, because there's a lot of state of governments that are overstepping. All right, so let's start with this one.
You're seeing here, white truck real loud. You can see it's moving fast. Slam on the brakes, stop right outside my window right there. See him slam on the brakes? So the Midland Police Department knows that I got a death threat 3 weeks ago. And of course, I'm shot inside my house, and I have proof of that. I've got still unidentified police caught in my house, still on evidence on the night that I'm shot.
Hey, you, and welcome. Nowadays, much like the activities of John Lang, the nefarious activities of the government, whether they be real or imagined, can be brought to places like YouTube and spread to thousands. And much like John Lang, we're going to look at the story of Buddy Webb, who believes he has captured some sort of evil government operation right under his very nose. Buddy Webb is still active, posting his supposed proof of what the government are up to. And also, he has been shot because of it. Let's take a look at the disturbing story of the secret government tunnels under the city of Midland, Texas.
And I want to read something to you guys that was in comments just now. Kent drives trucks, and he says, scale houses have scanners that can literally see inside of our trucks and trailers. Temperature readings are so accurate that I've been told by the DOT, Department of Transportation, that I had bad brakes based on the temperature of my brakes. And see, I know that too. So this is what I honestly believe is happening. I believe that they have found routes that are off main highways or away from these scanners. Folks, these people that are trafficking children and humans across America, think of it like an octopus. They have an arm in the local police. They have an arm in the local Department of Transportation. They know the roads better than most of us. They know where there are heat. They know where there are speed traps. They grease palms all the way. That's why you rarely hear of trafficking unless the federal government gets involved and they block a road and they start checking every vehicle. Then all of a sudden, there's people hiding under hay bales, people in trunks, people in underneath the beds of big trucks. Like it's boom. Well, then why weren't you catching all these people before you stopped the traffic? You see what I'm saying? Like they are not going to risk these people being caught. So they have a way to do it, and they do it very, very well. Now, a couple of years ago, some of you may have heard about the story of a young girl named Haley Dunn, who was kidnapped out of Texas. I mean, she was absolutely beautiful. Look at her. Beautiful little girl. And this went unsolved for like a very long time. It says a Texas man accused of killing his girlfriend's 13-year-old daughter in 2010 was indicted last week, more than a decade after the girl was first reported missing. Hold on. Because they said he tampered with evidence of her death. Dunn's mother, Billie Jean Dunn, first reported her daughter missing December 27th in 2010 in Colorado City, Texas. The 8th grader's body was not recovered until March of 2013 near Lake J.B. Thomas in Scurry County, 35 minutes northwest of Colorado City. This is a really odd case. Like, I think they've even released the man they originally arrested for this. I didn't get real deep into it because I'm only pointing her out because it's going to tie into this man that I found that was talking about the human trafficking, secret police, and underground tunnels under Midland, Texas. To summarize, there are nets of intricate tunnels layered under Midland to Odessa, Texas, that consist of murderers, kidnappings, human sex trafficking, child labor, drug smuggling, and more. Supposedly, this man, Buddy Webb, moved into a house here around 2008 behind a Home Depot where the previous owner had died. Now, there were several burglaries in this man's attic, and when he brought it to the police, the DEA, the FBI, none of them seemed bothered with actually checking out the issues that he was having. But Buddy got smart and he bought a police scanner, and come to find out, everybody in like a few block radius of him were reporting the same things. There's somebody in my attic. I smell cigarette smoke. We don't smoke. I hear people talking, but I don't have a basement. But it sounds like they're coming from below me. And it just seems like none of the authorities that should have cared about this even bothered looking into it. Now, it gets a little more diversified because Buddy was shot in the foot from underneath his house. Now, Buddy does not have a basement in this house. But somehow, someone got below his home that looks like it's sitting on a concrete foundation and shot up through the back, through the heel of Buddy's foot. And it literally sheared the heel of his foot off. Now, when Buddy went to the hospital, they were showing him an x-ray of what looked like pellets, like from a shotgun. And Buddy's like, that's not even my foot. See, Buddy had broken this same foot that had been shot from underneath him through the floor of a house without a basement on a concrete slab. That bullet hit the same foot that Buddy had previously broken a toe on, and he broke that toe in half. Now, Buddy had an x-ray from 4 months prior to the foot being shot. So he brought it and he's like, look at these not even the same foot. Okay. So the x-ray of his foot wasn't even his foot. And he believes that the previous owner of the home that he's currently in was murdered by the same people trying to kill him. There are tunnels under his home that cannot be seen from the outside or on Google Maps. Oh, wait, it says that can be seen from the outside and on Google Maps. And Buddy believes that something involved with children is going on down there. Now, understand this. There is some documentation and proof that Buddy may not have been completely 100% what you would call rational. What do I mean? There was a restraining order from his ex-wife against him. But we all know that divorces can be ugly. I'm not downplaying her or him. I'm just putting that out there to give you that information. it goes on and says that Buddy himself has made an update with a video. The young previous owner, Mike Lawlin, died 2 weeks before I transferred into a town as a 25-year company man. Now, let me make this point. If you work for a company for 25 plus years and they move you to a new town to oversee operations, chances are you are sound of mind. All right? Because companies aren't going to invest moving you and putting you in a position of power if they think that you're off your flipping rocker, right? Can we all agree on that? So it goes on to say, I was transferred into town as a 25-year company man. The death certificate of Mike Lawhan says he died in Fort Worth, but a neighbor told me twice that he died inside my home. The paper posted the first death notice saying that he died in Fort Worth, and then 4 days later changed it to say he died at his residence. Now, that alone is very concerning. They didn't quite know where to say that this young man died, okay? I believe that Mike Lawlin is one of them. Proof of a brute force home invasion during the month of his death has been posted online. 2 weeks later, after I reported a suspected tunnel to the El Paso DEA and then the Midland DEA, neither of them even took a look. My phone lines were cut and I was ambushed and shot by a person from under my home. So after he reported finding a tunnel, having proof of a tunnel, and trying to turn it into the appropriate officials, within 2 weeks, he was shot from underneath his house. Again, there's no basement. The house looks like it's on a concrete slab, and the bullet came through the floor and into his foot. Okay? Multiple pieces of proof show without a doubt that I wasn't shot with my gun as they falsely claimed. The size of pellets removed from my foot were 2.5 sizes different from what I use in my guns. There was no empty shotgun shell found anywhere around, and there was a large amount of plastic found in the wound by a surgeon. Not enough room for a 4-foot-long shotgun. You know what I'm saying? Like, they tried to say that he somehow positioned the shotgun at the bottom of his foot, even if he was on his knees, and placed a shotgun behind him on the floor and somehow managed to lean backwards and pull the trigger, the pellets would have ended in the back of his thigh. Like, there is no way that this man shot from the backside of his heel like this. Come on now. It's crazy. This doesn't include the former Secret Service that had been accidentally caught on camera sneaking into my home, stealing evidence and staging a crime scene. It took me 6 years and $2,000 of my own money to figure out who was part of the secret police that broke into my house. What you didn't hear in a video I recently posted was that there was no tripwire checked into evidence, and there are no pictures of a said tripwire. And the only person to mention a tripwire was the detective turned out to be a lifelong friend who is the ex-wife of someone alleged involved in the shooting of her former boyfriend. Now, that's just talking about how the police tried to say they found a tripwire where he positioned the shotgun with a tripwire and then pulled it and he shot himself from a distance, right? Like, it's crazy. He said, I secretly recorded an FBI agent telling me that he was going to shred evidence about some of the stuff I had been showing them. And the facts will show that 2 days after I wrote the Department of Justice and suggested that somebody look into the tunnels, an underground facility near my home, the remains of Haley Dunn were found in Scurry County. Now there are 6 people documented as saying that Haley was killed or buried in Odessa. So remember I was talking about that young girl earlier that went missing in 2010, but they didn't find her body until 3 years later. this man truly believes that that little girl had been held or moved under these tunnels, and that when he reported finally having evidence that him and other people in the town that there's something under the ground here, her body was found. In addition, I've recorded over a half dozen police scanner calls from other home owners in this area reporting somebody was either in their attic or under their house. A guy named Phil in Oregon told me that he had found a man-sized crawl space behind a wall of a home, and a woman in Alabama showed me a hidden crawl space behind the wall of her bedroom. I have reason to believe this is connected with a human trafficking ring who came up with the idea of how to rig homes with hidden access for free room and board. It works until the homeowner becomes aware of it. So I want you to think about how many American homes are left completely empty during the day. In this day and age, both mother and father work and the children go to school. So if you wanted to use people's homes or crawl spaces or underneath their homes, you could do it very easily. And something else I don't think people realize is your home is not as secure as you think it is. I watched a video a few years back of reformed criminals who worked with insurance companies. And the insurance company would be like, well, can you show us how easy it would be to break into this house? You know, this house has an alarm system. It's got brand new deadbolts. And it would not take those criminals but about 30 to 60 seconds to either disable your alarm or gain entry into your home in a way that you would not know that they gained entry into your home. So I'm just pointing that out because we're often not as safe as we seem to think we are, which is why I have multiple dogs trained and bite. I trained my dogs to bite. You think your dog will, but like an athlete, think of it as like an athlete. You know, dogs that run cattle are trained to run cattle. Dogs that retrieve, when people are hunting retrievers, they're trained to retrieve. Well, I trained my dogs to defend so that when the time came, if the time came, my dogs would know exactly what to do. Then I found this article. So before I play you the information from Mr. Webb, I've set the stage for you. I've given you the back history. Let me show you a news article that I recently found that says that maybe Mr. Webb isn't crazy. Human trafficking operations uncovered in Odessa and Midland. Experts warn it had been hiding in plain sight. May 30th, 2025. Midland, Texas. Earlier this week, 8 massage parlors across Texas were shut down due to suspected human trafficking operations. 2 of these were in Odessa and 1 in Midland, all reportedly linked to the same owners. Texas ranks 2nd in the nation for human trafficking activity, and the Permian Basin is considered one of the highest trafficking regions in the state. While many assume human trafficking only happens in large metro areas or foreign countries, law enforcement and experts say it's happening much closer to home and often doesn't look the way someone expects. Trafficking victims come from all walks of life, and so do the people exploiting them. Christina Payne, founder and executive director of Within Reach, said her team regularly visits at-risk areas to build trust with individuals who may be experiencing trafficking. It goes on to say that Everybody thinks just get into a white van. They get into a white van and roll off. Chief Program Officer at the Basin Dream Center. But a lot of times we come across in the areas of residences, like residential areas, is where trafficking is happening. They're being sold in the schools. They're being sold in the marketplaces. It's happening in the residential areas where you live. We are obviously seeing this materialize in Odessa and Midland. But make no mistake about it, this is a statewide problem. If you're not doing anything wrong, there's nothing to worry about. But for those that are using businesses as a front for organized criminal activity, especially human and or sex trafficking, then we do have a problem. And that's something Texas is not going to tolerate. But the problem is Texas has tolerated it. And the people that have been trying to ring the warning bell have been labeled as conspiracy theorists, or people think they're crazy. This gentleman began telling people something was happening underneath his home back around 2008 in Midland. And what happened? He got stalked, shot, and his house broke into. So I'm going to let you watch this video of him talking about it. You decide if he's trustworthy.
And October 28th, the previous homeowner dies.
His house is situated behind a Home Depot, close to a secluded truck unloading lane.
I take pictures in the morning, take pictures in the afternoon, so I could prove it to all these people. I got people breaking in my home. And so I went around for over a year before I ever come to the conclusion with systematic tests, with locking up, with verifying that they've been in the house, with making the evidence, taking the pictures and proving it. They're coming in some other way. It was another person that first suggested, do you think they're coming in from the floor? Once again, I had no concept or even imagine they're coming from the floor. But that's what they were doing.
In January 2012, Webb reported a suspected drug tunnel that went under Midland to the DEA. However, he reported that the DEA did not give one single shit about it. Did they already know about it? Webb's first call to the police for a burglary was in November 2010, and his first call for suspicion of someone in his attic was in January 2011.
I actually heard somebody in the attic. I was sure they were in the attic. I was scared this night. There's probably a 911 call on this.
Over time, Webb has claimed that his house has been repeatedly burgled and broken into, and that someone is in his attic or climbing through the walls. He wound up calling the police several times, along with the Texas Rangers and the FBI. Then, 2 weeks after he reported the suspected drug tunnel that went under his house, he was shot in his home from the ground. Someone shot him while they were below him. His house does not have a basement.
PM got a picture right there at the bottom of the security picture. It shows me crawling on my hands and knees out and survived the murder attempt. Why was I crawling out of my home? Why didn't I just pick up the phone and call 911? Well, the reason is because earlier in the day, my cell phone had disappeared, just mysteriously disappeared. Now, remember, I got break-ins going on all this time, okay? But it had disappeared. After I get shot, literally just shot without warning other than burglar alarms going off, and I fall to the ground. I got the phone, this cordless phone in my pocket. I try to use it, and the phone line's dead. And then my next security camera picture shows these two police arrive at my home, okay? And so you can see them, and I've got that posted on my Facebook. Well, I find out there were no police dispatched to my house, and there was no police at my house, okay? But I know on my camera to the minute exactly when they showed up, which was 19 minutes after I called out. So we don't know how they know to come to my home. Did somebody call them? If so, who called them, right? Or was one of them the shooter, who they are, and then who told them to disable the cameras, right? Because the next picture I got, which is on Facebook at 11/22, 1/28/12, is my outside security cameras being disabled, pointed towards the house.
He also believes that the previous owners were killed by the same people who shot him, and that the possible murderers were none other than law enforcement itself. And then ever since, Buddy Webb has been monitoring police radio bands, hearing what's been going on all across Midland, a lot of which seems to reinforce his theory that they're all in on it, you guys.
Douglas, Texas U.S. Susan for checking the area, said she was hearing some voices behind her house. But you're two different people. One voice was saying, "We're going to kill you," possibly in the lawn or backyard of the home.
And as you can see, he is quite the setup ready for any further incursion into his.
And now I'm gonna stop right here, and I want to tell you guys that. Remember, I did a video, I guess it's been 2 months now, about all the police officers that were dying or being killed around Houston, Texas. There was this young female that had been kidnapped before she was killed, a police officer. They made it sound like it was no big deal. And I told y'all then something's going on. Then I did the video where this woman stopped by one of the universities in Texas at a store to use the bathroom, and the lock, there was a mechanized Wi-Fi remote lock on the exterior of the female bathroom so that the person working at the front could just hit a button and literally lock you in the bathroom. And that was also in Texas. I'm just saying, folks. Now let me move it up to the point where he's talking about that little girl, because I need to wrap this up. My hubby will be home soon for lunch.
13-year-old Haley Dunn went missing in 2010. Her remains were found years later. Webb believes that she was linked to the underground tunnels, specifically child sex rings that operate there.
The 13-year-old Colorado City, Texas cheerleader that disappeared in 2010, and her remains were found in 2013, and how that possibly could relate to Midland and to these tunnels here.
2 days after I wrote the Department of Justice and suggested that they look in the now not so secret underground facility and tunnels by my home here in Midland, Texas. So she'd been gone over 2 years. I write the Department of Justice, email them, suggest they look here, and all of a sudden they find her remains in Scurry County.
And get this, Buddy Webb is not the only person who believes in these underground facilities under parts of Texas.
I had been told before there's an underground facility somewhere around here, okay? And she said, I said, it's either here in my house or it's close to my house. And she says, it's a half a block away. She goes, I know it's half a block away.
And the people working and operating these underground tunnels and facilities are apparently still interfering with him, still breaking into his house, specific.
Miss Teresa said, oh my gosh, I have grandchildren in Midland. Pray over them, which we're fixing to do. Once again, if you go to the post section on our homepage, we have an open bid for Growing Under a Poison Sky. The highest bidder will get this autographed. I will write you a note in it and I will mail it to you. This is a first edition of our book Leslie and I wrote, Growing Under a Poison Sky. This will not be available to the public for at least another 8 weeks. It is perfect. It's pristine. So I'm doing that to help raise money for my husband. If you'd like to join our YouTube channel, because we do not get paid for this, you can join. You can get the newsletter monthly, and you can meet Leslie and I in a Zoom on July the 26th at 7:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. I will hop off of here and put everything in the top of comments on how you can join. It's whatever you can afford. If you can afford $1, $10, or $100, then that's what you pay, right? So I just want to go ahead and pray over these children, and then I need to cook lunch for my husband. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for your knowledge and your wisdom. Father, we thank you that the truth is coming out, that lights are being shined into the darkness. We pray over these children, Lord, the ones who nobody knows is missing, the ones nobody's looking for. I pray that you will send angels to protect them. Father, allow these people to fall into the holes that they have dug, Lord. May your wrath and your vengeance be swift, and may it be devastating to those who would hurt these innocent children. And we thank you, Father, that we can boldly approach your throne room and we can ask you to help us help them. We ask this in the only name that matters, the name of Jesus. Amen. I love you guys so much. Be safe out there, folks. What we're dealing with now in these end times is no joke. This is not a joke anymore. This is not conspiracy. I find this article about this gentleman, and then I find the news article. He started saying that in 2008. And then I find a news article from 2025 saying, hey, guess what? Midland and Odessa are hotspots for child sex trafficking. Yeah. So just saying. I don't know. Tell me what you think. I love you guys so much. Be safe out there.